So welcome to the good, the bad, the ugly. Shua, do you like the name change there?
Yes, I
Didn't ask
do.
before it, right?
I do. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So cool. For those that don't know, this video cast series is really about all things DevOps, but we do put attention towards making sure that you're developing secure code. Last week I had Shua come on here. Shua, would you mind introducing yourself a little bit just for those that maybe didn't watch the previous interview?
Yeah, absolutely. My full name is Joshua, but I go by Shua only because I don't like being called Josh. Most of the time when I meet with people and I'm like, "Hey, I'm Joshua," and they're like, "Josh," I'm like, "No, that's not. I didn't say Josh." Okay, whatever. So I go by Shua. I work at Optum. I'm a director of Rugged DevOps, and so I own a couple of capabilities here when it comes down to your traditional application security. But also a development team underneath that. And then also I own observability. So after we look at what we've identified from an application security perspective, how do we bring visibility to our developers? And then I also own knowledge and learning, which you're going to hear a little bit more about today from the Optum Security Advocate program that was built here and how we kind of own that knowledge and learning platform.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so if you didn't watch the previous series that we did, be sure to go back and check out a little bit more into Josh's background as he did a deep dive into that. So today we're going to be talking about gamification, right?
That's right. That's right.
Built out. All right. Well, I'm excited to hear about it.
Well, the first thing I know is that you called me Josh. I just made me super sick.
Deleted that out of the video.
Oh, is that what you? Okay, that's what you can do that afterwards.
So I deleted that.
You can do the editing. I get it. So I want to take a step back to probably the previous episode for those that didn't that haven't seen it yet, but kind of a bookmark. When you think of rugged DevOps and what it means here, there's a couple of things that we try to do when you think of the traditional rugged DevOps pipeline, right? You think of plan to manage. And everyone sees that picture. You either see the infinity loop that looks like it, or you see the plan, the code, or the build, the code, the build, the everything, all the way to manage. And there's absolutely things within that particular pipeline that are necessary for us within the security space to interact with the individuals who are building those pipelines.
Right.
However, what we've missed out on an opportunity to do is a couple of things. One is, what about our ability to actually know our customer through building the telemetry that we get from all of the interactions that we have and the plugins that we have with our application teams? And then the second thing is the knowledge and learning part. So it's one thing to use the stick, which we've always thought about the stick. I'm going to come in. They should know better. It's policy. They should know better. It's to meet compliance. And when we look at what traditionally security would do is we'll give out artifacts that we say are the golden standard for something you should be looking at, yet they aren't really good at equating to requirements. And then it's also something that's like saying, nope, this is what you have to do, versus where I think the carrot lies is, how are we celebrating by investing into the self-development of the developers to tell them why. Why is this important? And that is where I actually, I'm not the first person to develop a security advocate program, right? I've heard of a Ninja program. Cisco has their learning I'm not the first person to do it. But how I say that it's translated into success here in the Optum Security Advocate program is the ability to start driving towards kind of a gamified approach to not only building the knowledge set of our engineers, but also the skill sets of our engineers by creating a gamified platform that allows individuals to take courses, but also has individual quests that are hands-on opportunities that teach security skills in a developer's world. So for example, you could take, just as an example, as a quest before we move on, is the idea of, just think of security automation, security testing. The idea is, before would have been, well, you have to do static application security testing, or you have to do some open source software testing using software composition analysis, right? All the developer hears is blah, 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 because all they hear is SCA, they hear SAS, we just throw a bunch of acronyms at them.
Right.
But what if we approach it towards saying, here's why this is important.
Yeah.
Here's how it fits into quality within the DevOps framework. Oh, and by the way, we're going to give you some fun stuff, and we're going to reward you and give you some visibility to the individuals as you increase in your self-development when you start going through this type of a program.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you get people onboarded, right? When you think about all these development, I mean, UnitedHealth Group's massive. I think that's the first challenge that I think about is how do you get people the leaders to be willing to sign up their developers to do it?
Yeah, and this is going to be, the way I answer this is going to be a little bit of a journey, a journey way of telling the story, because we're still in the journey. Yeah. And I think what's great is that now and here have an opportunity for people who are just starting this journey. What can they learn from what we did first? And then what can they learn for where we're at now? Because like I had mentioned, we weren't the first individuals to try and develop a program like this. Yeah. So the first thing I did in really getting started was I went out and I talked to all these companies that had these programs. I wanted to understand what it meant, like how were they getting interest? How were they getting people onboarded? And, the first approach that we took, because you can either look at this from a top-down approach or you can look at it from a bottom-up approach. Yeah. And the idea from a top-down approach is meeting with all of the VPs in our spaces, meeting with those individuals that have responsibility over the engineers in this area, and pushing the idea of what I was just saying, like knowledge and learning. It's important, right? And they're nodding their head, yes. And then I'm like, well, here's the Optum Security Advocate Program, right? And from the top down, it's, do you have volunteers that want to be a part of this program or that you want to see going in? And we started off that way. And what we found really quick, actually, by going from the top down, is you probably have about a 15% participation rate. So when you look at it, you're thinking, well, that's not bad, but we really would like to have increased to more. Yeah. So then we started looking at it. We still continued our top-down approach because you still need funding. You still need all that stuff and buy-in from leadership. But we really started pushing then the bottom-up approach. Mm-hmm. And we started really working with the engineers that did participate well within the program, those 15% that were there. And we started working with them to build the program out even more. We started defining more engineering language, defining more of the things that were like, okay, this still has more of a security spin on it. How would you engineeritize it to make it so that it looks something that's worthwhile doing? And in doing that, now from the bottom of approach, you have a community of engineers who are going through the program who are now recruiting other engineers to be in the program. And so that is where we've seen the biggest increase, not only in, you see about a 90% participation rate when another engineer invites another engineer to the program. So now you're saying, oh, I have a vested interest, I have a friend, I have all of that into the program. And so we've been through the program, or we're in the program for about 1.5 years now, really like legitimately into it. And that brings us to the present today. Is that by going from the top down and the bottom up, what we're seeing is the intersect of where those two are starting to meet. Yep. And it's kind of like from the bottom up, they're like saying, or the leaders are, I should say from the top down, the leaders are saying like, guys, have you heard about this cool program, the Optum Security Advocate Program? You get to learn, you get to do some, some rewards for it. And now the people who are from the bottom up are going like, yeah, we've been doing it. Yeah, like this is great. Like we should have been talking about this the whole time. And so we're still, I would say, small as far as where my expectations would be, but now we're seeing, that's why the fruits of this labor of doing it both ways are now coming to fruition, where we're seeing a huge spike now that the community is there of people all across the board being a part of it.
That's awesome. So I guess what type? Tell me a little bit about the program, right? Mentioned platform and stuff like that. What do you think are key parts?
Yeah.
Uh, to it?
So the way that we've set up the program, and for anybody that's looking for an idea of like how we did, like a bigger idea of it, I am totally open to come and talking to anybody. So
Yeah.
reach out if
All right.
you want.
There you go.
I'm there. I'm there to do it. But and the other goal of this program, to be honest, is that I would really love to go open source with a security advocate program. To be honest, I would love to create a community of engineers across different companies to really build out what this program looks like. And so if you're wanting to know then, to answer your question, what does it look like? We think that a combination of classroom learning
Mhm.
and hands-on activity are a good way in which we are getting people to go through the program. We actually have 4 tiers. We go from like a novice to intermediate to advanced to expert. And the gamification part comes into that, is that you earn points at each level to gain to each level. So I always thought of it as Candy Crush. You keep hitting these things in which you're hitting, and I'm guessing this is not sponsored by Candy Crush, but if
No,
you
it's not.
haven't played it, okay,
Circle back.
okay, okay. But the idea that you're hitting these levels and you're gaining points, and you get this fever pitch of wanting to start to continue to do the game. And so at the novice level, you have a higher degree of classroom learning, because we look at that as you're building the awareness part of what security is for you as an engineer. And then you have the quests that are the hands-on activities. And then as you move through the program, the expectation continues to shift. As you become into the expert level, it's more about what you do than what you learn in a classroom. So you are teaching, you are giving, you are delivering into the community, and you are building out the community that is there. And so the coursework itself, like I said, is more about the base level activity. But the quests are built in partnership with some of the more successful engineers in the Optum Security Advocate program. So we have quests that are like threat modeling. How do you build out a threat model? How do you learn how it's good for you? How do you ensure you can deliver it within your plan session? Security automation, which I already hit on, right? And then also another platform that we use is it's a code training platform. So this code training platform that we use allows you to have capture the flag events. So on a quarterly basis, we have capture the flag events to really see where our security advocates are progressing towards. Within there, we also have quests that are hands-on modules that have actual code, where you can choose your coding language, Java, .NET, think about, Angular, whatever you want to think. And it allows you to have, they put you into situations where they allow you to try to identify vulnerabilities and fix them. So just recapping real quick, it's the gamified approach of you learning and earning levels. It's a combination of knowledge that you learn in a classroom and a combination of the quests that are there, really built to give the individual a good experience as they're going through that platform.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Shua, I appreciate you walking us through that. And you mentioned too, which I thought was really cool, you'd love to open source it. So 2 questions as we kind of end it, because we're coming up on time. Like what companies that you reached out to that you want to give a shout out to, that you're like, hey, these guys are doing some really cool things, and maybe some other people as well that you can say are phenomenal resources. And then
Yeah. So besides myself, for people who want to reach out, Target. So I used to be out of Minneapolis, and so there was, of course, some Target, some local companies that I worked with, but Target was one of them. Cisco was another one. And then also AT&T was another one that I connected with. I can tell you that some of the times when you think of going to something like an RSA conference, that it's all about schmoozing and meeting with suppliers and all that stuff. But RSA did a really, really good job this last time, where they had kind of a Brainiac table setting where you could bring up a topic. And that's actually where I met most of my connections, was going through that. And then also Secure Journey was another individual company that I worked with. They have a similar type of way of trying to teach. So those are some companies that I thought were fun to reach out to.
That's awesome. So we're going to be back next week once again, right? So looking forward to doing another interview here with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the one thing I'll end on saying too, that some people talk about this gamified approach, and people might have questions right now about, is gamification really getting people to want to care about security, right? Are they in it for the wrong reasons? And the one thing I want to say before we leave is that you're absolutely going to run into people who are doing the game just for gaming's sake, right?
Yeah.
However, we're in the business of reducing risk to this company.
Mhm.
And if I can get someone to reduce risk, either for a selfish reason, meaning I want to be winning in this game and I get to reduce risk, also while capturing the hearts of people who are looking at it and going, man, I do want to increase my security. Oh man, I do want to be able to be a part of this security thing. So that's a question you have to answer or ask yourself when you're going down the gamification is, what does your culture look like? How are you looking at those questions that are going to come here? And that's one big one I wanted to say around a gamification and how it works and kind of one of the tripping points that you might get into.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Appreciate you highlighting that. Yeah, I could just see for a developer just thinking, wow, I had no idea that's in my code, right? As they go through that, and it makes sense to do. So we'll look forward to catching up with you next week, Josh.
Peace out. That's okay. Hey, listen, we'll get it. We'll get it.
I'm gonna delete that.
No, what you should do is you add in UA. Like every once in a while, you can just be like, "Hey, Josh," and then it will be like UA. Like,
all right.
yeah, you can do it.
All right. See ya.
Peace.